A very happy Tuesday to you all. I hope you all enjoyed the long weekend. Welcome back to the Team JLX podcast, and I hope you all had a wonderful long weekend. Today's episode is going to be about perfectionism, and perfectionism is a very widely used term, and I believe that it's widely used to cover up for people's inability to accept failure, but I don't think it's accepted as well in the sense of how we've come about that. And I think that people use it as a flash term, right? They use it as a term to cover up for that, but also due to a lack of understanding. And I wanted to make this podcast today to hopefully shed a bit of light. And it would have been very possible for me to have trawled through a bunch of scientific papers to talk to you in a more a scientific way about the mechanisms of fear of failure and of perfectionism. But I wanted to talk to you more about my experiences as a coach and how I've seen it and how I perceive it, because I do believe that that's probably going to be far more relevant to you guys and far more relevant to you in a way of relatability, knowing that, hey, I can feel that, I relate to that, and that's going to work for me. So to round up the introduction, what we're going to be talking about today is my experiences as a coach and what I think personally creates that perfectionist mindset, but also what you guys can do if you feel that you relate to a lot of the things I'm talking about to overcome that. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, perfectionism, if we were to look at it as people who say they're perfectionists, this tends to be a thing where, you know, in job interviews where people are like, oh, what's your biggest weakness? I'm a perfectionist. I just have to do everything right. It always makes me laugh. I did some interviews when we were looking for our second coach, and if anyone had ever said that to me, I'd be thinking that's just not a good enough weakness unless you can back that up with how you've overcome that and the things that you kind of do around it. But I think it's the easiest weakness because it sounds the best. But I'll push through that comment because I'm gonna get sidetracked, which I'm fantastically good at, and say this. Perfectionism typically is used where people can't do anything but get it absolutely right. And to be fair, it can be a weakness, because if you genuinely do suffer with perfectionism, what you're saying is that if it's not 100%, it may as well be 0%, because I'm not going to stop until it's absolutely perfect. I'm not going to send the thing. I'm not going to do the thing unless it's perfect. And not only does that mean that you relinquish a lot of control, because if the environment isn't perfect, you can't start. It also means that if the end product isn't perfect, you can't press send. So not only does it delay the start period of you beginning the thing you want to get done, it also means that you're going to be so delayed in completing it or in making progress because things aren't right. And I'm sure by now you can see the connection between what I'm talking about and your fitness journey. Because if you are somebody who struggles with perfectionism, it's highly likely that you're delayed starting things because the time isn't right. Oh, I've got an event next weekend. Oh, I've got an event in 3 weeks' time, better not start now. I've got this happening next week. I've got this and that. So all of these events, all of these things that don't allow you to have a clear view between yourself and where you are and the goal and what you want to achieve are going to be those things that prevent and delay you getting started. When it comes to the actual process, when you look at the meals you're having, the training you're doing, the timings you've set for yourself, all of these things you'll look at, and if they aren't perfect, the day is ruined. Maybe even the week for you is ruined. And therefore you can see that without that perfect day, that perfect week, for you as the individual, you're delaying the result, you're delaying the process, because every time this happens, you're pushing back. You say, right, I'll start again on Monday, I'll start again here. So perfectionism is a big barrier to people getting results in their fitness journeys, whether that's running, fat loss, muscle gain, all of these things. And fundamentally, a lot of people use it, I think, in the wrong way. And I think that it's used a lot of the time for people who generally just struggle with discipline. And that might be me being a bit of a cynic, but I do believe that from the people that I've worked with over a long period of time, sometimes it's actually just realizing we just need to get started. We can think of all these things that will prevent us from starting, but we do just need to get our heads in and get going. For those people who do really struggle with perfectionism, this is what I believe causes this. And I don't have any scientific backup for this. This is literally my experiences as a coach over the last, better part of a decade now. I've worked with individuals on their fitness journeys. And the thing that is most apparent is that those people who struggle with perfectionism tend to fit the category I'm about to talk about. It's very difficult to know if this fits for the exact individual, and obviously all the clients I work with I know extremely well, so it's easy for me to be able to kind of make these calls and ask these questions to them, knowing that it probably fits the situation or the circumstance, but it may not fit directly for you, and it may take some journaling. So I'll give you some journaling points once I've gone through this, just to help you out a little bit. Perfectionism to me is usually created in the way that we grow up and how our achievements or the level of achievements we're looking to progress into are both celebrated and questioned. So let's take the easiest example. If I take somebody who, let me take myself in this instance, right? I was always a very, very talented athlete when it came to sports. I picked up sports really quickly. And so people were expecting me to pick up sports and be good at sports, okay? My teachers, everyone, my parents, my coaches, everyone would just expect me to be good at these things. So if I wasn't good at these things, people would be like, oh, are you not feeling very well? Or are you injured? Or are you not feeling your best? It was just not acceptable to just not be very good at something. And the same thing may go for you. Let's say you're an academic and you always were an A-star student. And so when you get those A-stars, people don't really celebrate you. They just kind of go, yeah, good job, well done. Yet you might have a sibling who did get B's and C's, and your parents would be over the moon about that. Well done, congratulations, because they've surpassed the expectations. The difficult thing is that you can't surpass your expectations, because the expectations for you is already set to the roof. And if the expectations for you are set to the roof, what that means is the only place that you can land is below that, or to it. You get the A-stars, people give you a clap, well done, you've done really well, congratulations, you've worked hard. But it's not half as impressive to them as somebody else superseding the result, which means that basically if you didn't get those A-stars, you'd be questioned. You'd be asked, oh, what happened in that exam? Did you not revise as much? Did you not do this? Did you not do that? Did you not feel well on the day? All of these questions come at you because you didn't achieve the expectation. The massive difficulty, of course, being the expectation is as high as it possibly can be. So what happens then? We produce a fear of failure, not just in the fact that we get questioned and we feel shame when we don't achieve the standards set by others or ourselves, but we feel that because actually there is so much room below the roof and there's nothing above it. So in other words, it's do this or bad things will happen. There's no good that can come of it other than just a relaxing situation where, oh, I've achieved what I said I was going to, or people were expecting me to. Brilliant. Thank God for that, because I didn't want to get the questioning, didn't want to feel shame, didn't want to feel embarrassed that I hadn't achieved those things. And this is where the difficulty sets in, because what we've basically learned is that if I don't achieve to the maximum, bad things will happen. And this is how perfectionism, in my opinion, is created in many, many individuals. It's created because you've just learned that if you don't hit the nail bang on the head, bad things will happen, because what you've said is, if I don't get this perfect, if I don't hit that A-star level, if I don't be really, really good at my sport today, if I don't really excel in my arts or my crafts, whatever it is you do, people are going to be unhappy and we're going to feel shame. Now, let's walk that through life. And, most of the time it's happens in a pivotal phase, right? As children, as young adults. So we learn these things from the people we look up to the most, teachers, carers, parents, those individuals. And we carry that through then to our fitness, to our jobs, to all of our lifestyles. And to be very clear, I am not saying that we now sit back and go, oh, it's all their fault. I'm like this, end of story. This is one of my favorite sayings when I talk to clients in a more in-depth way about the fear of failure, psychology, those things. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. So it's not your fault that the bar was set that high. It's not that fault that people maybe shamed you into getting less of a grade than you would have wanted to or was expected of you. It's not your fault in any way, shape or form, the actions of other people and as a youngster, how that made you feel. But as an adult, it is your responsibility to do something about that. So it is on your doorstep now. The problem is yours, and it is your responsibility how you work through those issues, how you take on those challenges, and fundamentally, how you go from here to make sure your life is not dictated by the things that happened 10, 15 years ago, which so often is the case. And we look forward 10, 15 years, say, how do I want to live my life then? How do I want to progress? And how do I want to get the most out of myself and the qualities and the amazing abilities that I have? That's the key question. So to reiterate, it is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. So let's look at this as how it comes into fitness, okay? So when we have fear of failure, people might not want to push the weights on their training, so they're never going to grow the muscle they really want. People aren't going to want to really commit into a fat loss phase, because if they don't commit absolutely perfectly and the result isn't as it was expected, they might as well have just failed, and they're going to feel shame about that, because that's an instant and learned response. Don't hit the goal, feel shame. Don't create the process, feel shame. Don't fulfill what I said I was going to do, feel shame. Nobody wants to feel shame. Shame's a horrible emotion, and it's very anxiety provoking and very crippling, for want of a better term. It's not something we want to feel. And so typically people won't get started. People won't do the thing. People won't do the thing that would get them the happiness and the good feels that they really want, purely because they fear the emotions they don't want so much more. And that's a key part of fear of failure. It's a key part of perfectionism. It's the fact that the pleasure feeling we get from achieving something is almost nothing, because we set the bar so high anyway that basically hitting that is just relaxing us. It's I won't get a bollocking, I won't feel crap. So it's no real reward anymore. But the fear of everything that comes if I don't do the thing is massive. So essentially what we're saying is I have to do this perfectly. And what most people will do is they'll never give it their all. They'll never really try, because they fear not being able to facilitate that so much. It's not worth it to them. And that may ring very, very true for you listening to this. And so I hope that it does, in the sense that I'm about to give you a few key points that I would do to help. Now, just as you learn that behavior, one of the things I would do is I would start to journal on this. And I know journaling's not everyone's cup of tea, but journaling certainly is a very, very good way of self-understanding, self-acceptance, and I think most importantly, acknowledgement. Acknowledgement of, this isn't my fault, but it is my responsibility. So when it comes to journaling on these things, the good thing I think would be to start at the very beginning. Where did this first begin? Where did the pressure of this first begin? Maybe it was academia, maybe it was sport, maybe it was arts, maybe it was drama, maybe it was music. It doesn't matter. Maybe it was everything. It could be things like cleaning. It could be things, not as simple as that, but it could be things as kind of everyday as that. So start there, figuring out how that made you feel. How did I feel when these things were said to me? How did I feel when I didn't get that perfect result? How did I feel when these comments were made? And if you write these things down, you can start to talk yourself through it. And what you may realize is in that moment that they are the exact same feelings back then as the feelings that you have now. And that's a really interesting thing to feel. I certainly have done it a lot in my own journaling, and it's part relief, like, oh, wow, yeah, I really did feel like that. That's weird. And it's kind of emotional in a way. And what will then happen is you kind of journal through that, and you realize sometimes it can be quite upsetting because you've held on to these things for so long. But what you also realize is you now have control, and control is a really powerful thing to have, not only because it means that you have what it needs and takes to make changes, but you have understanding of why you behave the way you behave. And I truly believe that's a really powerful thing to have. When it then comes to making the changes going forward, once you have that understanding, you have that in the journal, the next thing to look at is, and I would put a question at the top of my page, and I would say, why do I hate, or why do I fear failure so much? And then I would start questioning myself. So I do a lot of question-based journaling, which is basically self-coaching. I'll write a statement or a sentence, and then I will question that sentence. So how this would work is you might write, the reason I, and you have to put I into these, you have to make it personal to you. The reason I hate failing so much is because, wham. Okay, next, and then so you leave that on the left side of the page, arrow to the right. Why do you fear this, blah, 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 so much? Arrow. I fear this so much because it makes me feel bang, 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 or such and such would say this, or such and such would say, okay, and how would that affect you now? Because times have changed, right? But we just hold on to those things. And you can keep going with this until the point where you will likely come against maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 different points. One is it's too unbearable for me to face, and in which case I would definitely continue the journaling, if not potentially look down the road of like, oh, maybe I need professional help with this. Maybe this actually is hindering my life, not only in my relationship with my partner, my friends, my family now, my job, everything. And if I were to be able to manage this better, perhaps I'd have a higher quality of life. So on the most extreme way, maybe getting some support with that would be great. But on the more manageable things that we can do as individuals, it might be, actually, they don't even speak to me anymore. I don't even see that person anymore. I don't even play that sport anymore. I don't even play that instrument anymore. Therefore, really what I'm doing is I'm carrying something that is applicable to something no more, because it's no longer in my life. Okay, so then the question that would go after that would be, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about this situation? And that's where I would bullet point some things that you can then start to implement to help yourself. The very first thing at the top of that page needs to be, I am going to lower the barrier of expectation. Expectations are, in my opinion, the key to frustration. If you set bad expectations, your frustration is going to go through the roof super quick. You know that friend you've got? Everyone's got this friend or family member who is always fucking late. Without doubt, just always late. When they are late, you just kind of laugh and you think, oh, it's just fucking them, so meh. But you do also have that friend who is always there, who is always on time, and who is always ready to go. Now, when they're 15 minutes late or they don't answer their phone, you think, what the fuck is going on? You start to get frustrated. You start to get a bit worried sometimes. You're annoyed. Where are they? Like, I hope they're okay, but equally, where are they? It's not messaged. And so what you have is expectation balance. For some people, we have expectations that are X and Y, and others are A and B. If we go against those expectations, we get frustrated. So expectations are a huge thing. So when we are aligning the expectation barrier of saying, right, okay, with my fitness journey, I need to lower these expectations down. I need to say, right, at the moment I am trying to be perfect, but actually all I need to do is, instead of shooting for specific macro and calorie numbers, I'm going to set ranges. I'm going to say, right, my protein needs to be 130 to 150. As long as it's within the day, that's absolutely fine. Your brain will challenge you and it will say, but what you actually need is 140, because we know that's right. And this is where the challenge sets in. This is where if you get to 138, you need to classify that as a win and celebrate it as such. Yes, 138, brilliant. And I would actually verbally celebrate these things with myself. A little bit like fake it till you make it, but equally you can journal this through until you really do feel it. But I do believe that actually actively celebrating, not just going, ooh, 138, wicked. It needs to be, yes, fist bump. I really actually am pleased. Not just that I've hit my protein target, but that is it for the day. I'm not going to scramble around my kitchen for an extra 2 grams, because this is exactly the goal I set. That's what I'm aiming for. And if we do that every day, okay, if we do that every day, we are going to start to take the pressures off ourselves. This only works if you celebrate the wins, okay? If you lower the barriers but still only celebrate when you hit the subconscious barrier that you set, which was way higher, this doesn't work. This is why with all our clients within Team JLX, we have 3 wins for the week. And I will go back to clients who haven't filled in all 3 and I will make them give me 2 more or 1 more. Because if we don't celebrate the wins, regardless of how big or small those wins are, we lose track of the process and we lose track of what we're here to do. And it's to actually stack up wins until we get ourselves to the goal. If you are somebody who struggles more with that and is more specific with the numbers, what you can do is you can say, okay, well, I'm not going to attack the numbers yet because I'm a bit too attached to those. But what I will do is I will look at other things of saying, right, what other areas, we'll stay in fitness here, what other areas in my fitness journey do I struggle with the most? Okay, so let me think. It could be if you miss a training session, the whole week goes into meltdown. The challenge therefore is, right, I don't have an hour and a half to go and train, but I do have an hour. Now, most perfectionists would go, right, I'm not going to bother. But the challenge therefore for you is to say, right, I'm going to go and I'm just going to get through as much as I can. I'll superset it if I have to, but If not, I'll just get through all the exercises I possibly can in this session to make sure that I'm still ticking that box for the week. Which gives me an idea, actually, and I've said that. And it could be that you, instead of saying, right, I'll wait for the opportunity to come up, you could set yourself 3 goals for the week, knowing that you've got a busy week. You might say, my goal is to track and manage my nutrition throughout the whole week and go and enjoy the brain blank, I'm trying to think of celebration, birthday. my mission is to go and enjoy the birthday that I have on Saturday. I'll still track on in the morning because normally I think, well, I'm going out in the evening, so fuck it, I won't bother. But what you're going to do is set the goal. I'm going to track in the morning, I'm going to track in the afternoon, and I'm going to literally just eat mindfully through the evening and have a couple of drinks and enjoy myself if that's something you do. Similarly, you might say, right, I know I've got working away on Thursday, so I won't be able to train on Thursday. Right, I'm going to move my sessions around. It's going to be a bit tight to do this on Friday evening, but I do think I can get something done. So my commitment to myself is I will go to the gym no matter what I get done. So you can see how what I'm doing here is I'm taking the absolute thing that you think you need to do to get your goal, and I'm just dulling it down and making it more achievable, and in that sense, releasing some of the anxiety created from that. If you do this, it will massively help you, because fear of failure is a massive driver of anxiety. Anxiety typically is a concern of the future, the what ifs, the but then, these kinds of things. And if you talk to anyone with anxiety, they never look back. They never go, oh, that situation has just ruined my life, because what they're saying is they're looking forward at what's happened beyond this point at what's to come. And that's the thing that's going to ruin their life. Someone's going to find this out, blah, 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 this is going to happen, and everything's a mess. Same thing with perfectionism. If I don't get this completely right, then this will happen, and then this will happen. And that's exactly why we get you to do that questioning process of make a statement, question it, make a statement, question it, make a statement, question it. Because when you do that, you're already playing out those anxieties and you're giving them structure. So when it comes to fear of failure and anxiety, what we want to do is we want to try and get it in the bud real quick. We want to try and celebrate that thing, because celebrating that thing and being grateful or actually feeling fulfilled by the thing we've done is going to help us not get to that point where we're like, oh, well, I didn't do this, and then this will happen, and then this will happen, and then the spiral then begins. So to come full circle back to the very beginning, and I always promise to try and keep these ones short and sharp, here are kind of my 4 key points. I may leak this into 5, but my 4 key points are this. The first one is I do believe that fear of failure comes from usually people who are very, very good at things, therefore only have appreciation of when they get that thing absolutely spot on. And the reason they have that appreciation is because they won't feel the shame, embarrassment, or get the questioning of if they didn't get it right. So typically the fear of failure isn't fear of failing, it's a fear of what's to come after failing. And that's usually that kind of shame and that questioning and so on, which people want to avoid. So actually it's an avoidance of shame, and it's avoidance of embarrassment, it's an avoidance of questioning. Really, that is fear of failure. Fear of failure is well connected to perfectionism, and I do believe they're pretty much the same thing in many regards, and they typically come from, I believe, parents, guardians, people of significant figure to ourselves who we really trusted, and we appreciate their value of opinion and things like that. So when they say things, we really take them to heart. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. There's nothing you can go back in time and change and do now, but it is your responsibility to change the way the next 5, 10, 15 years shape up for you with what you do now and the skills you require to do that. Can be found A, in this podcast, B, by asking me some more questions, and C, obviously getting the help required if it is a little bit more difficult and it is a more challenging thing. My 4th and final point here is this. Don't see perfectionism as this massive issue, this humongous thing that is crippling for you, that you just go, right, well, that's what I struggle with and that's the end of the story. Because what it has been created from is a tremendous level of ability. If my theory is correct, and you still have that tremendous level of ability, whether it's hard working that got you there, whether it's a talent, a skill, you have those things. Which means if you have those things, we need to learn to harness those things and create a superpower out of them. Whether that's academics, maths, English, science, writing, whether that's music, whether that's being able to communicate well with people, whatever it is, you still have those things. And it may be the case that, yes, we fear failure with them, but if we can find a way to lower the barrier and start to build momentum and start to build confidence, maybe, just maybe, that talent you had that maybe led to some of this difficulty, maybe led to some of the challenges you still face as an adult, we can use them again. We can use them again, we can shine a light on them, and we can celebrate them once more, and we can really make the most out of them. I've done this with a lot of my clients, whether it's taking up sports they ditched as a kid, that might be horse riding, that might be running, that might be gymnastics. Now as an adult, they never thought they'd come back to them because they had this big kind of fear or feeling about that. But we can do that again, shine a nice light on it, celebrate it. And as long as we set the bar in the right place, which would be my fifth point, which is to level the expectation well. Set the expectation to a point we can celebrate these things, and let's actually go forward and do just that. My friends, it's a pleasure as always. If you have any questions at all, please do send me a message on Instagram, Xander_JLX. And as always, if this is something that you've been struggling with in your fitness journey and you think, yeah, actually, perfectionism is a real thing that holds me back, we would love to support you. We'd love to support you with your journey. We'd love to help you to unravel this and then get you from where you are to where you want to be, whether that is in the sense of enjoying health and fitness and the goal that you've set in feeling healthier, or that is because you have a very specific goal in fat loss, in muscle gain, and those things as well. It would be our pleasure, and we'd love to hear from you. So again, send us a message on Instagram, and we'll talk through everything and support you from there. Have a wonderful day wherever you are. Take good care. Bye-bye for now.